Hello Internet, my name is Andrew Eder, and welcome to another episode of Film Editorials. There's a lot of ground to cover in today's video, so it might be a little on the long side, but it's not going to be anywhere near as long as the topic, Christopher Nolan's 3-hour epic, Interstellar. Interstellar tells the story of Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, who is a farmer/pilot/astronaut who travels through a wormhole with a team of other scientists, notably Anne Hathaway, to try and find a new home for humanity, a planet that will sustain human life because the Earth, for whatever reason, doesn't anymore. As with almost every Christopher Nolan movie to date, this movie has a ridiculously good cast, especially for parts that are small or otherwise surprising. Top billed, of course, are Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, and Michael Caine, but there's also John Lithgow and Topher Grace. And then there are a few surprises. Literally, if I tell you who's in this movie, I would spoil stuff. As far as performances go, I think generally the cast was very, very strong. There's a lot of Matthew McConaughey in this movie, and I don't have particularly strong feelings about him one way or the other, and I think he did a really good job. You really believe him as this kind of down-to-earth guy, but at the same time he has really far-reaching dreams. And that comes across very well and very strongly here. Mackenzie Foy, who plays Murph, Matthew McConaughey's character's daughter, does a really good job. I really liked her a lot. Anne Hathaway's character is very good. I like watching her work. I just feel like her character doesn't get as many moments to shine. She doesn't get quite the emotional range that Matthew McConaughey gets to work with, so that's a little disappointing. Now, as far as the plot goes, the elephant in the room is the movie's length. It's very long. If you get there ahead of time and sit through the trailers, you're going to be in the theater for more than 3 hours. That's a really long time. I didn't notice. It keeps you engaged the entire time, through the entire movie, but the first 2/3 of the movie are really good. And then there's this action-packed climax, and then there's an emotional climax, and then there's the conclusion, if you will. And I have issues, both logically and emotionally, with the emotional climax and with the conclusion, the closing action that should be wrapping everything up at the end of the movie. I can't go into too many details because I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like they could have gone one way with it, and instead they did this other weird thing which wasn't fully explained, and they didn't try to explain it. Like most of the rest of the science of the movie can get explained, but the conclusion of the movie, the crux of the movie that everything hinges on, is weird and feels out of place. The conclusion, on the other hand, just doesn't really make any sense. I have a lot of questions about it. Why does this have to happen? Why does it have to be like this? It like tries to be open-ended, but it's answered all its own questions at the same time, and it leaves you with a funny taste in your mouth. Like, you want to be happy leaving the theater, but at the same time it doesn't make sense for everything to have turned out the way it turned out. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. And one reason you keep hearing that you should go see this movie is because of the visuals. I saw this movie in IMAX, and I would recommend that if you have a chance to go do that, you should do it, because the big screen definitely enhances the experience. And while the effects are good and the cinematography is good as well, I wasn't particularly blown away by it. There's also a few times where they get to really show off with their space effects. One is when their ship is flying in front of Saturn. It's this massive shot of Saturn, and then there's this little tiny white ship flying by. And it's really cool, it's really beautiful, it shows off what space is like. And most of the movie is kind of bleak and gray, which adds a lot to the emotional intensity and keeps you invested in this emotional story. But at the same time, I wanted to see more. The last thing I want to cover is editing. This movie is really big. There's a lot of stuff going on in it, there's a lot of characters, there are a lot of places, there are also a lot of times, for reasons I can't really get into without spoiling anything, and it has to jump between them a lot. You spend most of your time with Matthew McConaughey, and then you cut back here and there to see what other characters are doing, and there are parts that are really, really tense because of the editing. The problem is, when they have to do that, the cutting back and forth, and then they have to cut back and forth occasionally between the people in space and the people on Earth. And the people on Earth tend to get stuck with the B storyline. Everything's very tense up in space and things are happening, and then they cut back to Earth and things haven't really changed that much since we left them. Cut back to space, exciting, 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 with them for like 20 minutes, it's all really tense, what's gonna happen next, I don't know. Cut back to Earth, it's about 2 minutes later. And so there were a few times near the action-packed climax of the movie I was like, wait, what's happening back on Earth? Little things like that, knock me out of the movie and prevent me from fully enjoying the experience. This is weird. I feel like I've just been ragging on this movie for its faults that I've found with it. But the movie is good. There are parts of it that are really exciting. There are parts of it that are actually quite funny. The two robots in the movie are really great, and you want to quote them all the time, like the 90% honest thing. The emotions of the movie are also very good. I am a sucker for stories about fathers and children, for some reason, I don't know why. And this movie has that in abundance. There's tons of emotions in this movie, and I think that's a rewarding experience. In summary, for Interstellar, I'm gonna have to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. Despite its length, it manages to keep your interest the entire time. It is exciting. The emotional story of a father and his children is really, really good. I like it a lot. And the first 2/3 of the movie feel really, really solid. On the other hand, it is quite long. The climax and the conclusion are not entirely satisfying in a lot of ways, and I feel that the visuals, while definitely impressive and definitely technically sound, could have been better. It's not the best movie of the year, and it's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film, but it is worth checking out if you don't mind long movies or movies that kind of twist your brain around a little bit. Also, if you're one of the people who get really confused by space and time travel and weird things that happen at relativistic speeds, then this movie might not be for you because all of that stuff plays a really important part of the plot. Okay, I think that's going to be it for today's video. Please don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching, bye!